Namaste, Pranam, Gita Dhyana. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Mṛtavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatva Manusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavatveshinim. O Bhagavad Gita, with which Lord Narayana himself gave enlightenment to Partha. The ancient sage Vyasa included it in the Mahabharata. O Goddess, showerer of the nectar-like knowledge of non-dualism contained in your 18 chapters. O my affectionate mother, the destroyer of rebirth, I meditate upon thee. Krishna Mantana. Vasudeva sutam devam kansachanuramardanam devaki paramanandam Krishnam vande jagadgurum. Son of Vasudeva, the slayer of Kansa and Chanur, extreme delight for Mother Devaki, O Lord Krishna, the supreme teacher of the universe, my salutations to you. The Moksha Sannyasa Yoga 18th Adhyaya of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and Sri Krishna is teaching us how we can reach that stage of moksha, the liberation, how we can free ourselves from this cycle of repeated births and deaths that we have come under the spell for so many millions and millions of lives. For this poor little Jivatman who is dwelling in our bodies. That Jivatman is seeking liberation but doesn't know how to do it. And Sri Krishna is showing us the way that through Tyaga we can reach that stage of nirvana, that stage of moksha, that stage of liberation. And Sri Krishna is now in this last 18th Adhyaya is kind of summing up all his teachings throughout this 17 Adhyayas, 17 chapters. And Sri Krishna says the real Tyaga consists not in giving up the work. Don't give up. Don't give up doing your duties. Sri Krishna says, give up the attachment to these duties. Give up the attachment, desires for what I am going to get after performing these duties. That is the Tyaga. Not giving up the duty. Do the duty in the most selfless manner, in the most dedicated manner, perform your duties. But don't expect anything in return. Don't get attached to the duty. Till the time you have been allotted to do that duty, perform it to the best of your abilities. So that is what, and then Sri Krishna has taken us through the entire detailed discussion about how we get into this act of doing the duties, how we perform the work, what makes us perform the work. And then Sri Krishna told about the threefold aspects of the jnana, the knowledge, the karma, the karta, the knowledge, the action as such, the activity as such, and the doer. How the three gunas of this prakriti, the sattva, rajas, tamas, how they influence these basic requirements for performing any karma, the knowledge of doing karma, the activity of as such perform, how to perform that activity as such, and the doer, how they are of different types of sattvic, rajasic, tamasic, how our intellect which actually determines whether we should do or we should not do, what is the right thing, what is the wrong thing, that intellect, that buddhi. Again, Sri Krishna explained to us the threefold types of that intellect, the sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic, and then the firmness of mind with which we stick to our path. That also determines what kind of outcome we are going to end up with. Is it that we are going to be bound forever, bound in this cycle of births and deaths, or is it that we continue to be strugglers to come out of this cycle? Or is it that as a result of this firmness of mind, having stuck to that path that we have chosen, we get liberated, we get moksha? Now that firmness of mind also of the three types. And then whatever we are doing, Sri Krishna says, is for seeking happiness. Whatever the beings in this creation, they are struggling, they are doing, they are so much dexterously busy at doing the tasks, that is for seeking happiness. Sri Krishna says even that happiness is of three types. That which each and every being is striving for, that happiness for which each and every being is chasing, that happiness is also of the three types. And in our last reading, Sri Krishna told us about the sattvika type of happiness, which is in fact everlasting, but which is extremely painful at the beginning. Sukhaṁ yatat agre viṣamiva pariṇāme mṛtopamam tat sukhaṁ sattvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. The sukha, which initially is like a poison, which is a bitterest pill. It is that experience is gruesome, horrible, almost disliked. But the person with the sattvika dhriti will persist, will persevere, bear all the patience. With all the patience, he will forbear all that kind of poison-like experience, all that bitter experience. He will just forbear that aspirant and tread on the path. And what happens towards the end? Pariṇāme mṛtopamam. In the end, it is like nectar. It is like from the painful mortal experience, from the painful experience of being in this body. Whenever the Jivatman comes in the body and with the intention of enjoying these worldly pleasures, there is enjoyment to some extent, but mostly it is pain and sorrow and grief. So what happens here? Initially, on this path, there is sorrow, there is pain, there is grief, there is displeasure. We don't like the things that we encounter at the start of this path, but still we bear all those things with great patience. We persevere. We continue our striving, our walking on this path. And towards the end, we have that beautiful experience of attaining that immortality. Then, initially what we feel, we are drinking a bitter tonic, a bitter medicine. Towards the end, we get a feeling that, oh my God, it was not a bitter medicine at all. It was the nectar. It was that ambrosiacal fluid which brought to us this state of immortality. And Sri Krishna says, tat sukhaṁ sattvikam proktam, that sukha, that happiness, which ultimately is as blissful as the immortality. Sri Krishna says that happiness is sattvika. And atma buddhi prasadajam, how it is born, how it is ajam, how it takes birth, that kind of everlasting happiness, that kind of eternal happiness, it is born out of atma buddhi prasada. That it comes out of the highest purity of mind, which is the result of gaining that knowledge of self-realization, gaining the answer to that question of who I am. Finally, I find that answer, who I am, and then I realize I am not this body. Mano buddha hankara chittani naham. That realization dawns, and then one attains to that blissful state of Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. That happiness, Sri Krishna says, it only comes out of the Atma Buddhi, the self-realization. And for that, you must have the highest purity of mind. So that was about the sattvika type of sukham. Let us see what is the rajasic sukha. Now Sri Krishna is telling us, which is in fact contrary to, it is a mirror image, reverse of what is sattvika sukha. viṣayendriya-saṁyogād yattadagre mṛtopamam pariṇāme viṣamiva tat sukhaṁ rājasaṁ smṛtam. Viṣayendriya-saṁyogād, that which comes out of arises out of the contact of senses with the sense objects. Viṣayendriya-saṁyogād. Sayoga is union. Sayoga is coming in contact. Coming in contact of what? Viṣaya, the object, sense objects, and indriya, and the sense organs. This is the sense objects that are surrounding us. They are always tempting us. They are always, and our senses. All these our five, the wonderful senses that the Prakriti has given us. These senses are always lured by those sense objects, and as if it is like the jigsaw puzzle. Every puzzle has its counterpart, and it fits in properly. Likewise, each of our senses, the Prakriti has also created the sense objects, and our endeavor is to enjoy those sense objects. Now, if we get into that temptation, if we fall prey to that temptation, then we do those acts to fulfill those temptations, to fulfill those desires. The moment that sense object is seen, the sense gets triggered off. The radar kind of, it just gets triggered off and tells the sense, look, there is that beautiful thing. Look, the sense of taste. The sense of taste tells, look, there is that beautiful bowl of rasagullas, the beautiful bowl of sweet meats. Go and enjoy. And then we go and enjoy. And then what happens? The bowl of 100 sweets, the bowl of 100 rasagullas, and hungrily we go and start gulping that. What happens? Sri Krishna says that agre mṛtopamam. When we start eating the rasgulla, it is like nectar to us. And when we finish that bowl of, say, 30 or 40 or 50 rasagullas, then what happens? Pariṇāme viṣamiva. And the end result is, it is like so dreadful, it is like poison, it is so much uncomfortable that we are in deep pain. Initially it is, oh wow, it is just awesome, it is glorious, it is so wonderful, it is so yum, and all those kind of adjectives we will attach to it when we start enjoying it. But towards the end, it is nothing but pain, pain and pain. It is bountiful of pain associated with it. So initially, it is exactly opposite of the Sattvika. Sattvika is initially viṣam, agre viṣam, but towards the end it is amṛtam. And here, agre mṛtopamam, but pariṇāme viṣamiva tat sukhaṁ rājasaṁ smṛtam. And that kind of sukhaṁ, which is initially so pleasant, which is initially so much liked, which is initially so much agreeable to us, in turn towards the end it becomes totally disagreeable. It puts us in so much of pain, it puts us in such a great level of discomfort. It creates such kind of, it brings us to the stage of repentance then. Oh, why I did it. When we get into that state towards the end, Sri Krishna says that is the Rajasik Sukha. Viṣayendriya-saṁyogād yat agre mṛtopamam. The happiness which arises from contact of senses and their respective objects, and which, like nectar at first, but like poison at the end, that happiness is to be held as the Rajasic type of happiness. So that is absolutely contradictory to the Sattvic type of happiness. Just opposite. Initially so much pleasurable experience that is, and towards the end we fall into that state of repentance. Oh, why I did it. I should not have done it. I should have just eaten 1 or 2 rasagullas. That would have been very good. But I ate so many. Now I have to take this medicine, I have to take that medicine. It is hell for me. So that is what happens when we start getting into the act of endlessly enjoying those sensual pleasures. The sensual pleasures, initially they may look very nice, very sweet, but towards the end, the sensual pleasure never ever take us anywhere. They just land us in that moment of sorrow, in that moment of grief, in that state of repentance. Now, Sri Ramakrishna has given a beautiful example on this particular thing about the sattvika happiness and how that sattvika happiness, when once our senses they start overpowering us in meeting up the enjoyments with the sense objects, how they bring us down, how they bring us that immortal happiness into a state of grief, into the state of sorrow, into the state of discomfort, which is not liked by anybody. So initially it is pleasure, in the end it is displeasure. So Sri Ramakrishna has he had told one story. In the old days, the priests of temple of Govinda at Jaipuri were celibates and spiritually very powerful. The priests of that temple initially in the old days, they were performing so many austerities. They were principled, no getting into any kind of enjoying the sensual pleasures, absolutely pure and clean, spick and span clean. They had such a high level of spirituality around them. The Raja of the place once sent for those priests. The king, he wanted the priests to come and perform some kind of a ritual at his place. So he sent for those priests, come and do it. Now these priests, they are at such a high level, plane of spirituality. They said, who is this king? We don't have time. We won't go. We are busy with our spiritual practices. We are busy in our austerities. We cannot. If Raja wants, if the king wants, let king come over here. Let king come over here. We will perform those rituals for him here, sitting here. But they refused to respond to the summons of the king. They suggested instead that Raja might go to them. Let the king come to us. We will do it here. And then what happened? Somebody told his king, these priests, they are at such a high level of spirituality. They are such a high eternal plane for that matter. In the divine realm they are. You cannot, seek their services at your beck and call. They won't come to you. There is one thing. You get them married. You get them married and then see the fun. And then what happens? Somehow the king tempts them and finds them beautiful girls. They get married. And the moment they get married, they have their families, the children are born. Now the necessities for worldly living, they are forcing the same priests who at one point of time, they refused the summons of the king. Now they are going to king every now and then. Oh king, give us some money. We have to buy rice. We have to buy vegetables. We have to buy this. We have to buy clothes for our children. Now what happens? See, the poor priests, then they would repair to Raja every now and then on one plea or another. Now they always rushed to king. Give me some money. I want to buy this. I need to repair my house. My children are going to school now. And all the fun started like that person who advised the king. You get them married and you see the fun. So, poor priests, what else could they do with their wives and children to look after? And Sri Ramakrishna says that when a man becomes slave to lust, when man falls to this temptation of the sense objects in fulfilling the sensual pleasures, he falls and becomes a slave to man also. What to talk of slave of gods? He becomes a slave of man also, losing his happiness thereby. So this is what happens. That is the type of happiness Sri Krishna is telling us in this. He has told us in this 38th shloka, the Rajasic type of happiness. This is what we get, which is initially very pleasurable. initially highly enjoyable, but towards the end, it is nothing but pain and grief and sorrow and that state of repentance, which is the worst ever thing to happen to a human being. So that was Sri Krishna's teaching on the Rajasic type of happiness. Among the three types of happinesses, exactly the diametrically opposite the happiness which Sri Krishna taught us as the Sattvika happiness. Let us be worried about, let us be cautious about not falling into this trap of seeking that Rajasic happiness, the momentary happiness to start with, and then ending up in the trouble. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Sri Ramakrishna. Jai Thakur. Jai Ma. Jai Swamiji.